Tonight, a quiet revolution is reshaping the very fabric of Eastern Europe, not with the roar of tanks or the thunder of artillery, but with the subtle redrawing of borders and the forging of new alliances. The world is witnessing a transformation that is as profound as it is silent, unfolding not on the battlefield, but in the corridors of diplomacy and the hearts of nations seeking a new future. For decades, Moscow has harbored a strategic ambition to carve out a land bridge stretching from Russia through the contested territories of southern Ukraine, all the way to the breakaway region of Transnistria and Moldova. This corridor would have given Russia a direct route to the very doorstep of the European Union and NATO, cementing its influence in a region long caught between East and West. But now, that dream has collapsed. The vision of a seamless Russian corridor is dead, undone by a series of decisive moves and shifting allegiances. Romania, standing as both a member of the EU and NATO, has taken a bold stand. By fortifying its borders and deepening its ties with Moldova, Romania has effectively cut the final line Moscow hoped to exploit. This move has erased the last realistic hope for Russia to establish a strategic foothold on the edge of Western alliances. The border is now more than a line on a map. It's a barrier to Russian ambitions, a symbol of a region closing ranks against outside interference. What's unfolding isn't open warfare, but a calculated, methodical dismantling of Russian influence. Through diplomatic maneuvering, economic partnerships, and the quiet closure of Russian consulates, Eastern European nations are reclaiming their sovereignty. The tools of this revolution are not guns, but agreements, handshakes, and the steady withdrawal of Moscow's presence from the region. Moldova, a nation long caught in the crosswinds of East and West, is now making a decisive turn. Thanks to Romania's deft diplomacy, shared language, and deep historical ties, Moldova is tilting firmly away from Moscow's orbit. The streets of Chisinau echo with celebrations of European unity, as Moldovans look westward with hope, embracing the promise of integration and a future anchored in the values of democracy and cooperation. The result of these shifts is unmistakable. Russia's ambitions in the region are now stranded, its once formidable power diminished, and its forward positions left exposed. The Kremlin's influence, once projected deep into the heart of Eastern Europe, is now in retreat, symbolized by empty checkpoints and abandoned military hardware. In Transnistria, around 1,500 Russian soldiers find themselves isolated and increasingly irrelevant. With supply lines through Ukraine severed by the ongoing conflict and diplomatic isolation, these troops are now cut off from reinforcements and resupply. Their presence, once a tool of intimidation, has become a logistical and political liability for Moscow. These soldiers are now a garrison with no way home, trapped by the very strategy that was meant to project Russian power into the region. The closed gates and fenced-off outposts are stark reminders of a plan gone awry, a force stranded not by enemy fire, but by the shifting tides of geopolitics. Moscow's forward base in Transnistria has become a cage, its influence redrawn and diminished. The symbols of Russian power, flags, insignia, and military equipment now stand abandoned, relics of a strategy that has failed to adapt to the new realities on the ground. The era of frozen conflicts and Kremlin vetoes is drawing to a close in Moldova. The country's parliament debates a future free from outside interference, while the specter of unresolved conflict fades into the background. Moldova is charting its own course, determined to break free from the cycles of division that have long defined its politics. This new reality has been forged by the resolve of Ukraine, standing firm against aggression, and the strategic vision of Romania, which has worked tirelessly to support its neighbor. Together, they have created a security architecture that leaves little room for Moscow's old playbook. The idea of a land bridge was always about more than just military logistics. It was a symbol of Russia's intent to dominate its neighbors, to project power and shape the destiny of the region. Its collapse marks the end of an era, and the beginning of a new chapter for Eastern Europe. Tonight, that symbol lies shattered. The emblems of Russian dominance are being swept away, replaced by the aspirations of nations determined to choose their own path. The story of how this transformation happened is a masterclass in modern statecraft. It's a tale where alliances, economic integration, and the hope for a better future have triumphed over coercion and intimidation. Moldova's Youthwave EU flags not just as a gesture, but as a declaration of intent, a belief that their future lies with Europe, not under the shadow of the Kremlin. The chessboard of Eastern Europe has changed. Moscow has lost a crucial piece, and the game is now being played on new terms set by those who have chosen freedom, partnership, and hope over fear and division. Russian influence in Moldova eroded slowly, then all at once. For years, Moscow's presence was woven into the fabric of Moldovan politics, economics, and even daily life. The shadow of the Kremlin loomed large over Chisinau, shaping decisions and limiting Moldova's options on the world stage. For decades, Transnistria was Moscow's lever, propped up with free gas, subsidies, and troops, keeping Moldova unstable and out of the West's embrace. Russian soldiers patrolled the breakaway region, and the promise of cheap energy kept local elites loyal to Moscow. This frozen conflict was a constant reminder that Moldova's sovereignty was always under threat, but a new generation in Chisinau chose Europe, not nostalgia. Young Moldovans, connected to the world through technology and travel, began to see their future in the European Union, not in the Soviet past. Their voices grew louder, demanding reforms, transparency, and a clear break from the old ways. Moldova signed EU agreements, diversified energy, and reformed its institutions, each step a break from the Kremlin. The country sought new partners, built new pipelines, and modernized its laws, making it harder for Moscow to pull the strings from afar. These changes were not just symbolic, they were practical moves that shifted the balance of power. Transnistria's economy, built on Russian subsidies, began to crumble as energy flows dried up, and Moldova enforced new rules. Factories closed, markets emptied, and the region's dependence on Moscow became a liability rather than a lifeline. The people of Transnistria felt the pinch as their isolation deepened. The war in Ukraine sealed Transnistria's fate. Ukraine closed its border, isolating Russian troops and cutting off smuggling routes. With the Dniester River now a hard border, the region's links to the outside world shrank, and Moscow's ability to project power was sharply reduced. Moscow's tools of control became its own trap. The very levers it used to dominate Moldova, military presence, energy blackmail, and political interference, now left Russia isolated and unable to adapt to the new reality. The Kremlin's influence, once projected through force and gas, is now contained. Moldova, with support from its neighbors and the EU, has built new defenses, both physical and institutional, against Russian pressure. Moldova's quiet defiance, backed by Romania and the EU, has left Russia's Transnistrian project exposed and vulnerable. The country's leaders now stand shoulder to shoulder with European allies, forging a new path for their people. The frozen conflict is thawing, and Moscow's grip is slipping. The symbols of Russian power, once unshakable, are fading, replaced by hope for a peaceful, European future. The instruments of power that once held Moldova back now isolate Russia itself. The Kremlin finds itself increasingly alone, its old strategies no longer effective in a changing world. The balance of power has shifted for good. Moldova, once caught in the crosshairs of great powers, is now charting its own course, toward Europe, toward freedom, and toward a future no longer defined by Moscow's shadow. In the breakaway region of Transnistria, nestled between Moldova and Ukraine, 1,500 Russian soldiers now find themselves stranded, cut off from the outside world and from the support of their homeland. Once, their presence was meant to project power, a tool of intimidation, a reminder of Moscow's reach into Eastern Europe. But today, these soldiers have become a symbol of Moscow's overreach and miscalculation, their authority fading with each passing day. Their only supply route, which once ran through Ukraine, is now completely sealed off by the war. Moldova, controlling the other border, allows Russian soldiers to leave only as private citizens, stripping them of their military status and leaving them with no way to return as a fighting force. No new troops arrive, no fresh weapons or ammunition are delivered, and no resupply convoys make it through. The garrison is left with aging equipment and dwindling resources. A forgotten army, marooned by a failed strategy and shifting geopolitics. Moscow's grand plan was to seize Ukraine's southern coast, creating a land bridge to Transnistria and reinforcing its isolated troops. But this ambition collapsed in the face of fierce Ukrainian resistance, especially around the strategic city of Odessa. The failure to capture Odessa sealed the fate of the Russian garrison in Transnistria. Now, these soldiers are trapped, surrounded by unfriendly borders with no hope of rescue or reinforcement on the horizon. Morale among the troops is low, their equipment grows older and more unreliable by the day, and their future is shrouded in uncertainty. Many wonder if they will ever return home, or if they will simply be forgotten by the country they once served. To Moldova, these soldiers are seen as foreign occupiers, a lingering reminder of past conflicts. To Ukraine, they are potential enemies, a threat that must be contained and watched closely. The Kremlin may issue threats and proclamations, but the harsh realities of geography and shifting alliances are unyielding. The Dniester River, once a corridor for Russian influence, now marks the boundary of Moscow's diminishing power. These troops are relics of a bygone era, stationed in crumbling outposts, waiting for a political solution that may never come. Their presence is a living reminder of the Soviet past, but their relevance is fading fast. What was once considered a strategic asset has now become a liability for Moscow. The isolated garrison is more of a burden than a benefit, complicating Russia's relations with its neighbors and draining resources. Russia's military footprint in Moldova is shrinking, its influence reduced to a shadow of what it once was. The empty barracks and abandoned checkpoints tell the story of a retreating power. The era of intimidation is over. For the people of Moldova and Transnistria, the future is uncertain, but the grip of Russian military power is loosening, perhaps for good. Russia's real weapon in Moldova was always energy, not arms. Gazprom's gas kept Transnistria afloat and Moldova compliant, until now. Moldova built new pipelines to Romania and tapped into Europe's energy market, breaking free from Russian blackmail. The Kremlin's energy leverage has vanished. Transnistria's economy, built on free Russian gas, is collapsing. Pensions and salaries go unpaid. Moldova's economic pivot to the EU is as significant as its political shift. Integration with Europe brings prosperity and independence. Russia's attempt to weaponize energy only accelerated Moldova's escape. The illusion of stability in Transnistria is shattered. Moscow's strategy has backfired spectacularly. The loss of energy dominance marks an irreversible decline in Russian power here. While the world watched armies, Romania used law and identity to bind Moldova to the West. The Romanian passport, an EU passport, has become Moldova's golden ticket. Nearly a third of Moldovans now hold one, granting them access to Europe's opportunities. Each passport is a personal link to the West, eroding Moscow's pull. Romania championed Moldova in Brussels, pushing for EU candidate status and guiding legal reforms. This patient, legal integration is reshaping Moldova's future. Influence now flows from shared values, not force. Romania's strategy is a masterstroke, offering prosperity, security, and the rule of law. Russia offers only a return to instability and corruption. The Moldovan people are choosing Europe, one passport at a time. As Moldova moves west, the idea of unification with Romania is gaining real momentum. No longer fringe, it's now a serious democratic option. Two nations with shared language and history considering reunification. Peaceful unification, via referendums, could make Moldova part of the EU and NATO overnight. For the Kremlin, this is a nightmare. Its last military foothold erased, Russian troops forced to withdraw. Moldova's integration would be fast-tracked, solidifying the EU's eastern flank. The era of Russian vetoes over neighbors' choices would end. The unification question is now a viable path to security and prosperity. Moldova's future could be decided not by force, but by the will of its people. The dream of reunification is closer than ever. Moldova was once divided. Older generations looked to Moscow, fueled by nostalgia and Russian media. But Russia's invasion of Ukraine shattered illusions, exposing Moscow as a threat, not a protector. Polls now show a clear majority favoring EU integration. 1 million Moldovans with Romanian passports experience Europe firsthand, undermining Russian propaganda. Young people see their future in Europe, not Russia. Support for unification with Romania is rising, seen as the fastest path to EU and NATO. Economic and security benefits are now tangible, not abstract. The West is decisively winning Moldova's hearts and minds. The country's path is clear, and it leads west. With military options gone, Moscow relies on hybrid war, disinformation, cyber attacks, and paid protests. The goals sow chaos and derail Moldova's western path. But these tactics are losing their edge. Moldova, backed by the EU and US, is countering Russian interference, banning propaganda, exposing fake protests, and building resilience. The Kremlin's meddling now alienates more Moldovans than it persuades. Disinformation can't compete with real jobs, security, or opportunity. Russia can still cause trouble, but it can't dictate Moldova's future. Its veto power is gone, its hand empty. At the heart of Transnistria lies the Kobazna Depot, 20,000 tons of unstable Soviet munitions, a literal and figurative time bomb. Russian troops guard this decaying arsenal, once a source of leverage, now a dangerous liability. The depot's munitions are too old to use or move. Any accident could trigger disaster for Moldova and Ukraine. Moscow blocks international efforts to dismantle it, preferring to keep the threat alive. But as Russia's position weakens, the depot is more burden than asset. The troops are now glorified guards of hazardous waste. The world is pressuring Moscow to allow safe disposal. Kobazna is a relic of failed strategy, dangerous, useless, and emblematic of Russia's lost influence.